There we go.
Here we go, and we finally got there.
We finally got it. We're up and running. So
Yeah,
nice to meet you, Simon.
yeah, you too.
Man, I have been a fan of yours ever since I've come up on your channel. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I started really digging into what you've been doing and just been keeping up ever since. And
Cool.
we've chatted over the years here and there.
We have indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that you had posted a picture on your Instagram a while back of the Bayou Rum that's right down the street. I'd say an hour from my house. The Bayou Rum from Lackason, Louisiana.
Right.
You still enjoying that, or has that
It,
been done?
it was a what? Sorry, that I posted.
I think it was it was like a picture on Instagram or something like that a while back. This was like a couple
Yeah.
years back, I'd say,
Of what?
of the bottle of rum.
Oh, the bottle of rum. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I do quite like a drop of rum.
But
Yeah.
man,
Rum, red wine, beer. Those are my three things that I probably shouldn't drink, but I like drinking it. So
you go. Hey, as long as you can handle it, it's all good.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a rum man?
I used to be. I used to
Yeah.
be. I've been sober now about 16 years.
Oh, that's pretty good going.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, life's better for me that I'm sober,
Yeah.
you know.
I think it would be better for me too, to be fair.
So how's the weather out there in London?
Yeah, it's good. It's actually, we've had like about a month of really hot sun,
Hmm.
really good weather, which is weird because in England we don't get good weather ever. I think the last time we had a proper spout of good weather was COVID 2020.
Damn, that's wild.
Um, yeah, so ever since then it's just pretty much rained for like 5 years, and now we've got some sun. But that's all right because the UK government's about to block it out. So
Yeah, I've got two good friends that I went to Beyond the Gates with in Bergen, and
yeah,
they're from the state. They're from Brooklyn, New York, and they just moved out to London not too long ago, probably about 6 months or give or take.
oh yeah,
And they love it. You know, they don't have to
yeah,
deal with all the bullshit that's over here in the States.
yeah. Oh, there's plenty of bullshit over here as well.
Mm. So Simon, what I like to do, man, is
Yeah,
just get your
I think it's,
story
yeah, sure, okay.
and uh
So
and just go back as far
where
as you want
where
to
do you
take
want
it.
to? I mean, yeah, I suppose my story starts probably around 1989, 1990. So I was never into music. I mean, I liked music as a kid, but I was never really like a big music fan, and I certainly didn't play any instruments. And in the school holidays, I had a friend who recently just joined the school. He became my new mate, and he lived around the corner from me. So I was probably about 14. And during the school holidays, I would go around and just play some arcade game with him. And this is going back to the era probably of like the ZX Spectrum. I think it was on a Spectrum or an Amiga. So it's a pretty bad, it was pretty bad graphics, pretty bad games. But at the time, it was all we knew, so we loved it. And he was a massive Maiden fan. So every single day, he would put on an Iron Maiden album, the same album. So I listened to that every day for about 6 weeks. And by the end of the summer holiday, I was obsessed with Maiden. And I just dreamt of playing the guitar just because of what I'd heard and listening to those riffs and the Dave Murray solos. And I was like, oh, I'd love to be able to do that. So we didn't really have any money when I was a kid, but my nan had a little savings account for all of her grandkids. So I said to her, how much you've got in my savings account? She's like, oh, you got about £80. So I said, can I get it out so I can buy a guitar? And she said, yeah. And I never thanked her, which I'm always sad about. Before she died, I never thanked her for what she did because she really that changed my life. The amount of experience I've had from playing music, the amount of friends I've got from playing music, places I've been, stuff that I've done that I would never have done So anyway, she gave me the £80. One of my uncles, who is still alive, he's 86 now. He used to play in a rock and roll band in the 50s. So I said to him, "Can you come guitar shopping with me? Because I don't know what I'm doing." And he was like, "Okay." So I ended up with like an Encore Strat copy and the shittest amplifier that you've ever heard in your life. But again, I didn't know better. I didn't know what was good, what was bad. All I knew was as soon as that thing was in my hands, I became obsessed. And so that was how I got into playing the guitar, was through Maiden. Then I got into like AC/DC, then started getting into some thrash like Slayer, Megadeth. And then I'd say the first sort of heavy album I got was Harmony Corruption, Napalm Death. And I still love that album to this day. And that was where I'd say my metal journey began. And then black metal came along. I joined a band when I was about 17. So basically, is this story? Do you want it in chronological order? Because I'm probably skipping those stuff.
Man, look, this podcast is fucking a train wreck of wheels. So
perfect. That's my style.
You could do it. You could go forwards. You could go backwards. It doesn't matter, my man.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So the first band I joined. So I went to music college. So I'd had guitar lessons and I'd learned how to read music and play. But obviously, back in like 1990, there wasn't the internet. There weren't any resources that you could just go, "Oh, I want to learn how to play so and so." It was like, "Well, figure it out by ear then."
Right.
You know, there were occasionally like tab books that you could get of certain albums, but anything heavier than like Slayer probably anything heavier than Megadeth, that didn't exist. And most of the time, the tab books were completely wrong. You know, you get about 5 minutes into learning it, like, this doesn't even sound right. Maybe it's just me playing it wrong. Could have been that. Yeah. So when I was 17, I was at college. I was at music college, and at lunchtime there was a little cafe just up the road from where we used to go to college, and we'd quite often go up there at lunch and get a full English breakfast at lunchtime. And there was a little record shop called, I think it's called Big Brother, and I think it's still there, but I could be wrong. It might have been a different one. But so anyway, I just went to the record shop to have a look at what they had, because that was how we found music back in the day. We didn't go on Spotify, you know, we just go into record shops.
I'm right there with you. I'm
yeah. You know the score. Yeah. So you look at albums and like, this looks nasty. Let's have a listen. And then sometimes it was nasty and good. Sometimes it was crap, and you're like, "Oh, I'll put that back." And on the window of the shop, they had a little sticker, and it was like, "This band's looking for a guitar player that's called Embalmed," and it was a picture of a decomposed skull with the word "Embalmed" above it in this, like, you know, sort of gothic writing or whatever you want to call it, with a phone number. So I phoned the guy up. His name was John. He was the singer. So I thought it was a full band that needed a guitar player. It turned out it was just a singer. But again, you know, this is my first experience, and I didn't know any different. So I called him up. I said, "Yeah, I'm interested in the band." And he was like, "What sort of stuff are you into?" At the time, I was into like Carcass, Obituary, Napalm Death, Morbid Angel. So I told him, and he goes, "Well, should we do an audition then?" And I was like, "Okay." So he came over, and I can't remember which song I played, but I played an Obituary song. I had a bright pink BC Rich Warlock. That was my only guitar at this point. I got rid of the Encore Strat. No, I don't know. I wish I did. I actually sold it to one of my students many years later, and he kept it for years and years and years. But he's also got rid of it now, so I've no idea where it is. It was probably on a bonfire or something, because I think it was quite battered and beaten up at that time. But yeah, so I had this bright sort of metallic pink Warlock. So he came round. I played an Obituary song, and he was like, "Right, great, you're in the band." I was like, "Excellent." But then we obviously needed some new members. So I had a mate that played the bass. He wasn't a metal player, he wasn't a metal fan even, but he played the bass. So he was like, "You play the bass, you're in the band." And then we auditioned a drummer, and I'll never forget the audition. So we did a similar thing. We put an ad in the paper saying we need a drummer. Call us. So this guy called us, and the bass player was like, "Well, I've got a massive room at this house share that I'm in. Why don't we just audition there?" So we were okay. So went to his house. The drummer set his kit up. The singer was singing through this massive old bass amp because we didn't have a PA or anything. It was just whatever we could get that made noise.
As
I
you
think
do.
I had, as you do, yeah. In those days, as you know, gear wasn't a thing, was it? Um, and I think I had like a Laney linebacker amp, which again wasn't great, but it made a sound that sounded heavy. So that was my amp. So we set up in his bedroom. I can't remember which song we'd agreed to jam for the rehearsal or the audition. I think it was probably an obituary song or something. And he just clicked it in, started playing blast beats. I started playing, the singers started doing his growling. About 10 seconds into that, the owner of the house, who was having a dinner party in the room next door, came storming into the room and just started shouting at us, like, "Are you crazy? Get out of my house!" So the audition for the drummer lasted about 10 seconds, but he was a drummer, so he was in the band. So
Exactly.
that was yeah, exactly.
Those are hot
So
commodities, those drummers.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you find someone that likes death metal in the 1990s and they live local to you and they've got a drum kit and they can play it, it's like you're in.
That's a fucking unicorn, what we call that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so then we decided that this is our new band. It was a death metal band, and we were trying to find someone to rehearse that wouldn't kick us out after 10 seconds. And we found a comic shop who had a basement that we could use. So he didn't charge us much. It's probably a tenner to rehearse for the nights. We would rehearse there once a week. And it was, you would never get abandoned now. The fire risk was ridiculous. So it was down a big flight of stairs, a big basement room filled up with old dried out comics, old electrical items. There was no fire escape. So if there was a fire, we were instantly dead. And we started rehearsing, just writing our own songs. The first stuff we came up with was all death metal. We did our first gig. So my first ever gig was actually a college gig. And I was playing with a load of girls on my college course. And I think we played like I Will Survive. I can't remember what else. Just loads of old 90s pop tunes.
Right.
And then at the end of that set, the singer came up and the drummer came up, and then we did two death metal songs. It was the weirdest gig I've ever done. Well, actually, no, I've done weirder gigs since then, but it was a weird first gig. It was like half pop with my college friends, and then half death metal with my actual friends that I used to hang out with. And then, so that was the first gig. I think it probably sounded awful, but we loved it. We had a great time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then I think our second gig was in somebody's lounge. They thought that even though they knew it was a death metal band, they had a Halloween party, and they're like, "Yeah, come and play at the party." And we're like, "You know what sort of music we do?" And they're like, "Yeah, but I'm up for it. Come on." But this time the police turned up, so I think we played 2 or 3 songs, and then the police turned up because the neighbours had been. Because you can imagine like the
right
coming out the window and us lot there, and yeah, so the police turned up. So that gig didn't last very long either. That was our second gig, and then from there, because we used to hang out a lot. What happened? Like some of the other band members left and stuff like that. So in the end, it was just me, the singer, and the drummer, and we just hang around all the time, listening to death metal and watching sick gore films and all that sort of stuff. And then we discovered black metal.
Now, what year is this?
So I think, oh God, this is probably 1992. And my memory is terrible with stuff. So our old drummer, I think he remembers every single day of his life. He's never forgotten anything. So if ever I've got a bit blurry about stuff that happened back in the day, I'll just say, Vlad, what happened on this day? And he'll go, oh, this. And I'm like, ah, nice one. And about a year ago, I said to him, what was the first black metal that we listened to? Because we would have listened to it together, and it would have been in John's house, because he was obsessed with anything metal and the occult and all that sort of stuff. So that was like our go-to place to sit and listen to new music and stuff. So, and it was the Emperor and Enslaved split CD, Hordane's Land.
Oh shit!
And yeah, so that was the first black metal that we had. And I think it's the minute we heard that, we were like, oh my god, this is. And I'm just getting goosebumps now just thinking about it, because I can remember that moment. Just listening to that first Emperor EP, it's like, this is fucking unbelievable. Like, this music is doing something to my soul.
Right.
And from that moment, that was what I mainly listened to. I mean, I play anything, any sort of style of music, but that touched my soul in a way that I still love death metal, but just the atmosphere and the harmony, and yeah, that and from that moment, then I was obsessed with black metal. Then maybe a couple of years later, Barm split up because of just normal band shit. Like, people fell out and couldn't be bothered with it and stuff like that. So I sort of did my own stuff, which was Winters Mourning, and that's where that came from. So that's about 1993. And I had this old 4-track, which was like, it looked like an old big stereo system, but it had 2 tape decks, and you could use it as a 4-track. And so I just started, and I had this old Roland drum machine, which I think I bought it in like a second-hand shop. It didn't have any instructions, so it took me a while to figure out how to do this. So then I just started writing my own black metal stuff. And yeah, that was, and again, I still had my little Laney amp and a cheap shit microphone that I think I bought for about £6. I used to chuck in front of that, lay down the drums by pressing play and then playing along to it. And then, so I recorded a load of demos. I think around that sort of time as well, I had a situation with Cradle of Filth, where Cradle of Filth had released their first album, Principle of Evil Made Flesh. And I really enjoyed that album back in the day. And I learned how to play the whole album. And then Vinny, the drummer, or Vlad, I call him Vlad, but his real name's Vinny. So if I say Vinny or Vlad, I'm talking about the same person.
I got you.
Yeah. So Vlad phones me up and he goes, have you seen Cradle of Filth looking for a guitar player? And I was like, no. And he goes, yes, in the back of, I think it was Terrorizer magazine or something like that. There was an ad, and it was like newly signed black metal album band looking for a guitar player for tours, writing new material stuff. So we figured out it must be Cradle of Filth. So I phoned the number and I spoke to their manager, and he was like, can you play any of the material? I said, yeah. In fact, I've recorded the whole album on my 4-track. I can play the whole thing. So he goes, can you send it to me? So yeah, so I sent him the whole album that I recorded, and he phoned me back a couple of weeks later and he said, right, so we listened to it, we love it. Yeah, do you want to come down for an audition? I was like, oh yeah, 100%. And then he goes, but before you come down, I just need to ask you something. And I was like, what's that? And he said, what's your hair like? And at that point, I just shaved it off, and I had hair like yours, but I shaved it off literally about a week before that phone call. And I was like, I haven't got any hair. And obviously they had Nick on drums, who was bald, and they're like, well, we don't want anyone else who's bald in the band. You've got to have hair, so we won't audition you. And I was like, okay, no problem.
What the fuck?
But yeah, but I didn't really care. I mean, I was 17, 18, and I was living with my parents. And I thought, well, if I get in the band, I've got to move to London. Sounds like a lot of aggro anyway. So yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. So that was my.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't comment too harshly on this, because my bias is probably going to get in the way, because I consider you, I hold you, here's Simon Smith, here's Cradle of Filth in my life. So there's that. I'm just gonna put that there.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks, mate. That's a nice guitar you got in the background there.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a Jackson Pro series from
Yeah,
with the hardtail because I cannot play a Floyd for shit.
yeah,
But that's
that's
basically what
lovely.
I
That is.
learned on uh,
Yeah,
a lot of lessons that you imparted. Your YouTube audience, namely me, practice on
yeah,
this motherfucker.
cool. It's sick.
Thank you.
Yeah, my first load of gigs that I did ever was with Jackson. It was with an old Jackson concept that I reckon I probably bought that in, again, maybe the mid 90s. I can't remember dates. As I said, my memory's terrible, so it was around probably mid late 90s, and I bought a Jackson concept, and that guitar probably did 500 gigs. I reckon that thing went everywhere with me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
great
just fell
guitars.
in love with that neck profile, man, and just
Yeah,
it plays. Jackson's just plays so freaking fast,
yeah,
and I between the Jacksons and the ESPs, uh, fucking love it.
mm, absolutely.
And
Yeah, so that
I
was.
see you're a big fan of Schecter and PRS guitars as well.
I am. Yeah, I think those are my two favorite brands, or not necessarily the brand itself, but when I pick them up, they just feel right. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had hundreds of guitars over the years. I try sometimes when I can't get to sleep at night, I try and think of all the guitars that I've owned in chronological order, and it gets me to sleep. I've wasted so much money buying guitars and selling guitars, and buying them brand new, selling them 6 months later for like 500 quid less than I bought them because they're now second hand. Oh, I've
What
just been such an idiot.
what do I had some bunch of fellow gearheads that what's it called, the gear acquisition syndrome, like gas is like
Gas.
that's a real fucking thing.
Oh my god, it's a joke. Yeah, yeah, and it never ends.
Never
It's like
ends.
it's like having permanent gas, which I also have.
Yep, yep, same.
Yeah. So yeah, but it never ends. But I think I'm pretty happy with what I've got now, guitar wise. Obviously, you always look and you always think, oh, is there something else? But whenever I'm about to buy a new guitar, I think, what am I buying this for? It doesn't do anything that any of my other guitars don't do.
Yeah.
Will it sound different? Maybe 2% different. Is anyone in the world going to notice the difference between what I'm playing here and if I play that one? No, because if you use a different amp or a different amp sim or a different cab or a different IR, it sounds completely different. No one's ever going to know, but it's just that thing of getting something new, isn't it?
Yeah. There's always something new and shiny that you're like, whoa,
Yeah, that's right.
need that.
That's it. Yeah,
That guitar, that amp head, that's gonna
yeah,
complete me right now.
yeah, yeah. If I get those, the world's going to change.
Right?
Yeah. And then 2 days later, it's like, oh, the world didn't change, but I've just seen a new guitar that I like.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So
But
you're
yeah, that's the life
17.
of.
So I'm gonna go back here. So you're 17.
Yeah.
You just recently got denied the audition with Cradle of Filth. Where you go from
Yeah. All right. So from there, then I suppose for a few years I was just a bedroom player, just playing at home because I love it and learning new stuff, and then some friends of mine had a metal band with Snub, which was kind of like a metal hardcore crossover band, and they only had one guitar, but they wanted a bigger sound, so they wanted a second guitar player. So they asked me if I fancied it, and I said yeah, right, because I wasn't doing anything, and so I joined that band. We did pretty well on that. We did quite a few tours, hundreds of gigs all over the place, lots of mad times, mainly involving alcohol. Um, so I joined Snub. We released I think we did an EP first, and which we recorded on a farm, just in a room on a farm. We used to rehearse that with somebody brought along a little portable recording device, and that was what we used to record that. Then we released a full length album on Copro Records,
Mhm.
which was probably like 1999, 2000, I think it was, somewhere around there. And we recorded that in Henley on Thames with Dave Chang engineering the album. Um, So we released that. Then we did a few tours to promote it, because promotion's always been something I'm terrible at. But obviously the record label was sorting out the tours and the dates and stuff, so we didn't have to do any of that ourselves. So we did quite a few tours, a few gigs. Then similar thing, you know, band members leave and band members change, and then the dynamic changes, and then I think the other thing that happens is you start getting older. It's like, because everything when you're 18 to 22, 23, 24, doing all those gigs and traveling and getting home at 4 in the morning, then getting up the next day to go to work, and then doing the same thing that night, finishing work, driving up to Norwich, playing a gig in front of 4 people, driving home, getting home at 3 in the morning, getting up for work. It's like, oh, I'm not sure how much fun this is anymore.
Right.
And we all kind of got to that point when, you know, if you could get a couple of weeks solid tour dates and you weren't working in between, it was fine. But because we all had jobs, it became a bit of a, well, we've all used all of our holiday and we've got another 2-week tour, which you want to do because we've got something new to promote, or we just want to get out and do some gigs. So then that band kind of died a death, and the original guitar player, Ian, he moved away. He moved up to Worcestershire, and we could never really find anybody that could replace him, mm-hmm. because me and Ian sort of bounced off each other with songwriting. So we had very different styles, but when you put them together, it created what we thought was the ideal sound for that band. And then when he left, we tried some different people, and it just never really worked. I had a flatmate that was an acoustic guitar player, and I said, look, we need a guitar player. Do you want to do it? But I'm going to have to teach you everything from scratch, like how to play metal, how to play. Playing with an acoustic's fine, but when you play in front of a Marshall stack that's cranked, it's going to be very different. So I have to teach him like controlling. Yeah, very different.
I've learned that real quick, because I remember having your channel on when I started playing guitar. I was working away from home, and I was stuck in a hotel for mm-hmm. the better part of a year. So that's whenever my guitar playing journey started. Watching your YouTube videos and some other guys, but I mean, truth be told, I stayed focusing on your channel because you were playing the music that, you know, that interests me as an extreme metal musician, and everything that you presented was just really, you know, dumb. It was so dumbed down for me. So I was like, I know if I could follow your lead and your instructions, I could do it. And so, but coming back to the half stack, I mean, I was just playing. I had this little Boss Katana, one of those little like maybe 5 amp, like mm-hmm. 5 watt amps, and I was just like, you know, at a bedroom level with that. And then mm-hmm. when I graduated to this, I was like, holy shit!
yeah. It's a little bit of a different feeling, and controlling that feedback was like. And that was a thing that he had never had to do before. So like, mate, you've got to mute the strings you're not playing, because he was used to just strumming everything. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, that you can't do that. You've got to learn control and muting and accuracy, and you know, you only pick the string that you need, or the strings you need. You're not just strumming it. So, but he actually did all right, and it took him probably a couple of months to get it. But because he could play acoustic, he understood the guitar part. It was just tightening up all those techniques. But yeah, so then he joined the band, and again that didn't really work out, and so that sort of died a death. And then I think from there, again, this is where my memory is probably a bit hazy. I was always doing stuff with other people, like writing music, but never really releasing anything.
Yeah,
I did a couple of bands with 7 strings, and we wrote, you know, loads of stuff, and rehearsed and gigged, but never released anything. And then I think from there, the next thing I released was probably Kaitella, which is another black metal. It wasn't a solo project. I wrote the music and the drum parts, but then I got local guy in to do the vocals, and because he's just a local metalhead, you know, everywhere's got the local metalhead that will be at every single show, and he'll know the lyrics to every song that every local band plays, and he'll be on the stage with the mic. It's Andy, so he's the guy. So, and when he would jump on stage to sing the snub songs or whatever, he would absolutely scream it, and I was like, his vocal is insane because he would just put literally every part of his soul into it, and I thought, when I do this next album, I want Andy to do the vocals. So I told it was a concept album. It was about a witch that um, gets rejected from her village. So she curses the village and then everybody dies. But then she just lives her life in regret. And so each song was like a different stage of this story. So I messaged Andy and said, look, do you want to do the vocals? Here's the songs. Can you write the lyrics and come up with the vocals? And he's like, yeah, okay. So when we recorded the album, I hadn't even heard what he had done. I just literally picked him up in the morning, but I knew it was going to be good. And I picked him up in the morning and we drove to the studio. He went down into the vocal booth and just absolutely smashed it. He sounded like Varg. His like vocals were very,
Oh wow.
not totally the same, but similar to Varg in terms of, you know, they're not strictly in time. They're not strictly where you would expect the vocal line to be. He would just scream with his soul, and like, well, as soon as he started singing again, I just got goosebumps. I was like, I'm so glad that I got Andy in, because I didn't have a clue what he was going to do.
Yeah.
But he smashed it. Yeah. So that was that, and then I decided to reignite Winters Mourning because I hadn't done anything with it since like the early '90s, and it was just a dormant idea from like, well, what is it now? 30 odd years ago now, isn't it? It's a long time.
I know. I mean, I think about the early '90s, and like, man, that's such a long time ago. But it feels like yesterday.
Yeah, yeah,
Whenever you mention that, you know exactly where you were whenever you first heard "Enslaved" in that Emperor demo.
yeah.
I can relate to that. Like I remember
Mm.
being in my parents' living room with an AOL chat room because I was like on the hunt
Hmm.
in the very early internet days. But even before that, and it was like a Rip magazine, like you said, like in the back of the magazines, there's like all the good shit
Yeah,
was featured, and there was like these small little printed photos from what was happening in Norway. And
yeah,
initially, I saw the Golgoroth uh like picture them of their first performance where they had all the people on a stage being crucified, and they had the pig's
yeah.
blood, the pigs carcasses everywhere, where they
Mm.
it was a big thing because I think some of the members like got arrested for that shit, and it made U.S. news. And then
Mm.
it's like shortly after that, I hit the AO chat rooms like, hey, has anyone heard about this? And they're like, oh yeah, if you don't know about Norwegian black metal, you should check out XYZ band. And I settled on everything Dark Throne.
Yeah.
Like I started with Panzerfaust because like it was like 94, 95 when that came out, and then I went backward.
Masterpiece of an album.
God, yes. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy that they remastered it. And Peaceville just made an announcement, and I just saw my mail. It shipped the other day, so I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah. Because yeah, the first Dark Throne I heard, I'm trying to remember. It's probably yeah, it was a Blaze in the Northern Sky. No, actually, I think I think we might have had the first one, Soulside Journey,
Hmm.
because that was the death metal album, wasn't it? And that was a great album.
Really is.
And then they completely changed their style for a Blaze, and just that first intro where it's got all the like the sounds and the crescendo, and like he's doing all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff in the background, and I was like, "Fucking hell, I love this." And then that first riff, and yeah, I wish I could go back and relive those days, because to me that was when music was exciting.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And And like you said, there was no internet or there was no Spotify. So if you wanted music, you had to go and find it
Oh yeah.
or have somebody tell you about it. And then you'd go and investigate it yourself. Because
Yeah.
one of the things we used to do at school was, and you might have done the same, was like mixtapes with
Oh
your
yeah.
mates.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember. I
And
remember like just CD to tape recorder and whatever, or
yeah,
tape to tape. I
yeah,
had two boom boxes that I would make for friends and whatnot, and and they were like, "Mo, you're into some really serious shit." And I was like, "Yeah, it's fucking awesome, isn't it?"
yeah, yeah. It's brilliant because also like they would just give you a tape. You didn't know what was on it. There was no track listing. It's just like maybe their brother made it for them or something. And I remember having this tape at school, and I think it had stuff for the children on it, but it had some Sodom on it as well. Uh, Tired and Red, and I fucking loved that song. I must have listened to it 100 times that tape until the tape was warped and I couldn't
Mhm.
play it anymore because it was so used.
Yeah.
But then I just sort of forgot about. But I never knew who the band was. I didn't know what the song was. I didn't know who the band was because my mate who gave me the tape, he didn't know who it was either. I think his brothers made him the tape or they'd given it to him or something. And then years and years later, I was listening. I think somebody requested me to learn a song to teach on YouTube, and it was a Sodom song. And I put it on, and I was like, "Fucking hell, I recognise that voice." So I was like, "So this is the same voice of that track that I listened to when I was 15." And I just went on a search until I found that song. And when I found it, I was so happy. I was like, "Yes, I found the song." But yeah, that to me that was an exciting time for music because all this, like you say, all the stuff in Norway was coming out. The black metal scene was new. There was there wasn't there wasn't a scene where I lived down south, but you would hear about stuff and then you go and investigate it. And if you wanted, if like because the music that we listened to, you couldn't just go into a record shop and say, "Have you got the new Burzum album?" Because
Right.
it wouldn't be in the record shop. So you'd either have to order it from the shop or order it online via mail order.
Hmm.
So I think I used to get I think it was a Plastic Head mail order list. So as soon as I heard something, I'd go through the Plastic Head catalog and see if they had it, and if they did, I'd order it on the via the post. And he used to send a check off. So I want this album. This album is a check for 15 quid. Then 2 weeks later, you get your album. So yeah, those were the good old days when music was. And then you'd listen to it 100 times. You'd learn every lyric
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
every song. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore, does it? Well, it doesn't for me anyway.
No, it does happen for me. I
It
mean,
does.
it's I probably maybe with just every Dark Throne release, I'm curious to know what they're saying. If I
Yeah.
can't decipher it or whatever the case may be. But yeah, like you mentioned, I don't do a whole lot of that these days. But
Mm,
a lot of people that I talk to that's about our age demographic, we tend to stay with what we know, what we grew up on, and
yes.
but every now and then there's something new that kind of takes me back to the what was happening in those days, and
Mm,
and I'll stick with it. Uh,
yeah.
and I could just I think about my good friend Thomas Erickson in the band Moitic, who pretty much put his city of Halden on the map with
Yeah.
his brand of black metal, and I really love what he's doing, and I discover other bands around who's coming up with him,
Yeah.
either on the Peaceful label or elsewhere.
Yeah. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, like staying with what you've always known and loved, because I love black metal and I listen to it, but I don't go out searching for new stuff. Sometimes people will say, check this out, and
Right.
I listen to it. But I don't go searching for stuff because I don't know, I just don't get time to do it. And I just always end up going back and listening to the old albums,
Exactly.
which maybe I'm living in the past, but to me, that old stuff was like the pioneers. They were the pioneers of genre, and that was the stuff that I fell in love with. And anything now, there's some amazing bands out there, like Quella from Aldo Freya that I also play in. He quite often sends me stuff, and he's got a great taste in music. So whenever he sends me stuff, I know it's going to be good. So he got me into craft, and then there's, but I'd say probably the biggest source for me of new music is my YouTube channel. When people say, "Can you teach me this?"
Yeah.
Like they'll leave in the comments, "Can you teach me this?" And I'll go and listen to it. And sometimes I listen to it and I'm like, I can't. It's a great song, but I can't tell what any instrument is doing, because it's, the black metal production quite often is so raw that it's like, well,
really, you can't really determine what's going on with the production sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But then sometimes somebody will send me an absolute gem, and as soon as I listen to it, I'm like, holy shit, this is good. And then that goes on my playlist.
Let's talk about your channel, man. How long have you been doing it? YouTubing, content creation.
Oh, that's a good question. Probably. I mean, I think I started dabbling with it around about 2006, 2007, but without really understanding YouTube. Like I just sort of discovered that, there's you can upload videos and anyone in the world can watch it. So I think my first videos are the worst videos you've ever seen, on a really crappy digital camera in my lounge, just playing nonsense, but thinking, this is cool, I can upload music onto the internet. And that's basically what I did. And then I had this idea probably around 2005, 2006. I can't remember when it was. I thought, well, I'm going to make a load of DVDs, teach guitar, and sell my DVDs as a course on eBay. So I made a load of DVDs, tried to sell them on eBay, and somebody just said to me on eBay, "Why the hell would I buy that when I can just get free guitar lessons on YouTube?" Because at the time I wasn't doing lessons on YouTube; I was just like making videos of playing shit or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, that's a good point. Why don't I just stick that on YouTube?" So I stuck my DVDs. I just put them all on YouTube and just took them off eBay, because I didn't sell a single one, as you can imagine. And then I started getting all these emails saying, so and so is subscribed to you, so and so is subscribed to you, and these were coming through, like I was getting loads every day. And I was like, what does that even mean? What does this mean? Somebody's subscribed to me?
Yeah.
Because to me, I didn't even know how to work YouTube. I didn't know how subscriptions worked or anything. I just uploaded videos, and so it means they follow me, right? Okay, I get it now. And then because I've always been a metal player as well as doing other stuff, I started uploading a few metal videos, and then I think I did a couple of black metal videos of just the old stuff that I loved, like some old Burzum and Emperor and Dark Throne stuff, and it just started getting loads of views, and I was like, there must be a market for people that want to learn black, because you're not going to find an official tab book somewhere, are you? So I thought maybe I'll just try and learn it. And again, I'd say over the years my ear has developed, because when I was first learning stuff and trying to learn it and upload it, my ear was probably terrible, and it was probably, most of it was wrong, but it sounded like it. So I was like, well, that's good enough. But then it's like the internet's pretty unforgiving, isn't it? When you upload something and it's wrong, people soon tell you.
But the internet is ridiculous, man.
Yeah. So I started thinking, well, if I'm gonna do it, I should probably try and actually make it as accurate as I can. So I suppose over the years my ear has developed, but also my playing and my understanding of playing black metal. Because even though I've played black metal for 30 odd years, everyone's got a different style, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely.
So the way I play it is going to be completely different. Funny enough, I'm going to do a video soon. I've been watching loads of players and how they tremolo pick, and again, everyone's style is different. Like if you compare Varg, he holds a pick in a very weird way, And then if you look at Isan, he's got almost like a closed, and it's very different. But as well as that, what they're playing with their left hand, and a lot of the melody and the harmony that comes out with two players will be completely different the way they voice it and do it. So yeah, so that's how the channel started. I didn't even really understand YouTube. I just thought I'd just make some videos, and people started subscribing, and that was it really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The latest one that you released was really eye opening for me. I mean, I've like you, I've looked at Troy O'Grady, and Rick Bedio and Michael
Yeah.
Bedio Angelo, um,
Yeah.
and took a lot from that. And just kind of just kind of develop my own tremolo picking. And from what I've been told, like just being playing 5 years now, um, I have a good friend of mine and Sammy Dewey of Goat Whore and Acid Bath, and he's like, Mosolate, bro, you got one fucking fast right hand, bro, and
Yeah.
you have a good foundation right there. So I was like, fucking hey, I'm gonna just keep going then. I'm just
Yeah.
all I need to just keep pushing on and playing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what was your journey then? Because obviously told you mine. So
My
what
journey?
was yours?
Uh,
Yeah.
uh, Damn, man, you're like the first person to ever ask me that on my own podcast.
Did you say I am the first?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
right.
definitely the first person to ever ask me about my music journey, and
Right.
I'll oblige. Uh,
Mm,
I grew up in a small home myself. We didn't have much,
yeah.
and but I had no choice but to be a metalhead. I had these older cousins of mine
Yeah.
that we all used to skateboard at my grandmother's house, and they had
Uh-huh.
you know my cousin built a half pipe. And I mean, I was probably 6, 7 years old, just taking my cues from them.
Yeah.
And they're all five, like anywhere from 5 to 10 years older than I am. So, I mean, six, so they're, almost teenagers at one point, or some
Yeah.
of them were teenagers. And my oldest cousin, his real name's Peter, but we called him Pirat.
Yeah.
uh, and we would walk down the street to his house, and he had this door poster of Ozzy Osbourne's "Bark at the Moon,"
Yeah.
and he had the Blackie Lawless, where like Blackie is all like, he's got the saw blade jock strap, and there's like fake blood everywhere. And I was scared to go in his fucking room, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I was still intrigued to
Mm,
to see, because he had just a collage of magazine cutouts of all his favorite bands. And there was Metallica, Slayer, and everything. Everything really
yeah.
extreme at that time, because this is like 86, 87. And
Nice. Yeah.
so I just became a little sponge, and I was like always a little hanger on, probably annoying to my older cousins at one point. But they started pushing, I remember I used to have this boom box that I told you about, and I had Fat Boy, like remember the hip hop group, the Fat Boys?
I probably would recognize the tunes, but that's not ringing a bell.
Okay, well, it was really popular here in the States.
Right.
And like I was, I remember like bringing those tapes, and I thought they were cool. I was like, it's Fat Boys is crushing. Cousin
Mm.
took the tape and he fucking threw it. And he put on like I want to say the first like really metal thing I heard was probably Black Sabbath's Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And
Yeah.
I remember hearing National Acrobat for the first time, and hearing that riff just did something to me.
Mm.
And then like from there, like my cousins were already into Master of Puppets, and like they would play that when we were skateboarding, and that we were listening to like pretty much the entire force the first four Metallica albums.
Yeah.
And I mean, something just really drew me in with Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. Like those remain. I mean that and Justice for All like just remain my favorite thrash albums. And
Yeah.
and like from there, I just kind of stuck with that through my when I would come home because like my grandmother's house was about an hour and a half away drive back to where I grew up. And when I went
Mm.
back to my small town, I just felt like the fucking outcast. Like,
I remember that feeling very well. Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
a lot of the kids in my class were, probably all into, everything mainstream and popular and probably still to this day. And it was like a lot of hip hop, and country is big down here in South Louisiana. And and then there's me who's like, I've like always wore black, or if I wore anything, it was like in the skateboard, just kind
Hmm.
of did my own thing throughout the years. And I had well, I wouldn't say a friend, but there was a neighborhood guy who I want to say it was like roughly 87, 88 is whenever he told me about Venom and Motorhead. And
Yeah.
like I've always seen them in magazines when I started, getting into more metal as a kid, but I never paid it no mind. But then like, this guy Jason, he told me, he said, Mo, like everything that Metallica does and everything that Slayer does, it all comes from the same, music
Yeah.
influences. He's like, if you're gonna like that, you're gonna like this. And
Mm.
he had Venom's black metal, and I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, this is so fuck and they had the pentagram and the Satan occult looking shit. I was like, ain't no way my
Yeah.
mom's gonna let me bring that shit home because my, my
Absolutely. Yeah.
my mom is a huge religious zealot still to this day.
Right.
She likes to hang out. She likes to. She totally supports what I'm doing these days. But back
Mm.
in the day, there was no way she would let her 12-year-old, 13-year-old son wear a
No.
Venom shirt or a Slayer
No.
shirt. It just
No.
wouldn't happen. If I wore those shirts, it was because I bought it on my own. I put it in a book sack, and when I went to friends' houses and hung out, I
Yeah.
changed over. You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so that's the way it was.
Mm.
And when I turned 14, I caught the guitar bug because there was some like a lot of hardcore punk bands and some things that I wanted to do. And like my dad bought me a PV, like a cheap PV RXG or something like that. It was like a super strat copy like you,
Yeah.
and it was
Hmm.
black and white. And I had this little maybe 510 watt PV amp, and my attention and my attention span and my lack of discipline, just like my guitar playing just kind of fell by the wayside at 14,
Right.
but I've always had a passion for metal, always had a passion for and an admiration and respect for musicians that played that music.
Mm.
And um and life happens. I got married and I had some kids, and and uh, got remarried 2 years ago because I was in a spot where, like I said, I was working and in still being the extreme metal enthusiast that I've always been. I want to play guitar. I was like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And I had to put, I just felt like a creative pool. And then, I started like in my off time because I would work in and out of a courthouse just looking at research, like researching conveyance books, and just like my
Right.
mind would be total mush. But I was like, uh, the only three things that I could do while on that job was either go back to drinking, use
Yeah.
crystal meth,
Yeah.
or do some shit that is gonna be very suspect, and like those are not options for me.
Mm.
And so started like researching guitars, started researching what's the best guitar to learn, as a beginner. And
Hmm.
so, and then I had no idea that Ola England had his like gear review channel and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So this is 2018, 2017 time
Hmm.
frame. And so I got big into like following what Ola says. And just like, okay, that's some high quality shit. It's a little bit beyond my skill set at this point, but he started his solar company.
Yeah.
And uh I decided to buy one of the G series, the one of the Les Paul guitar that he
Oh
made,
yeah.
basically, because I love the horn of it. It looked really extreme. And
Yeah.
so I did that, and I also bought a guitar from the pawn shop, which is a Schecter. And I
Oh
had
nice.
and look, I was so lost in the sauce about guitars. I had
Hmm.
no idea that there was such a thing as baritone guitars, because that Schecter was a baritone scale. It was one of
Okay.
their blackjacks that they stopped making,
Yeah.
I believe, at the time. But
Yeah.
and it was already tuned. Like, I would find this out later whenever I would go get it set up professionally.
Mm.
That it was set to like B standard or some shit. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Man, it sounds fucking ferocious." They had they had a set of like some Seymour Duncan blackouts, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Dude, this fucking shit is heavy."
Yeah.
So I was just, power chording it up, and then like, started following your channel. And it was a journey that just it's still ongoing. and
Mm.
and
Never ends.
it never ends. And you know what? And like,
No.
I had a friend of mine that taught me a great deal about theory and technique.
Yeah.
Showed me some songs. He showed me how to play like a lot of intros that I would build on. Like, namely, a big thing was I wanted to learn how to play, some of the easier songs of Death, because
Yeah.
I really love Chuck Schuldiner, man. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah.
And
Unbelievable musician. Yeah.
unbelievable, man. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
was gone way too soon. And same friend of mine, he had taught me how to play the intro to Pull the Plug, and I started like, learning how to tremolo pick. Uh, and and I was like, man, I want to start making my own black metal music and whatnot. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much where it takes me here, and like it's like, because of that, I'm gonna rewind a little bit too. My first go at university, I majored in broadcasting and media, and I always want to do what I'm doing now, podcasting. And I wanted,
Mm.
wanted to like
Yeah.
interview metal guys, and I want to play metal on the air, but I would soon realize that corporations and big media outlets dictate the playlist, and
Yeah.
it is highly competitive. So I stopped that, ended up graduating in business. And, and like during COVID is whenever, I kind of took my P's and Q's from you, Dev Goro from the UK,
Yeah.
and my great friend Thomas Erickson. Y'all all had, some content creations of your own going on. And I was like, you know what? I want to do something at a local level, where kind of like build up my own scene here in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Hmm.
Um, and then like, I'm about 101 episodes in of just like interviewing people, because I do have some other episodes where like me and a friend will, grab like 5 songs a piece that, people don't know about. We call it Buried Underground. and
Okay.
and we just showcase, local guys' music and whatnot. And it's just crazy how like small and like niche the metal community is. It's
Yeah.
like the world gets smaller and smaller,
Mm.
with each person I meet.
Yeah.
Because um I if someone wants to tell me that I was going to interview Ted from Dark Throne on my podcast,
Yeah.
you're fucking insane. No,
Mm.
that's not going to happen, but it did.
Yeah.
And it's because of the network that I slowly built because of
Mm.
this thing, and then I get to sit here in front of you and talk shop with you, and another highly influential guitar player in my eyes, and I'm sure in all your subscribers will say so too, and
Mm.
uh, and I love learning more about music, through like through you and other guys, and that's what keeps my podcast going. That's what keeps me inspired,
Yeah.
and I just I don't have any intention of slowing down anytime soon. It's just like
Cool.
like
Yeah.
whoever moves the needle, like or not, oh, no, I shouldn't say that. Whoever I feel as though is like contributing to extreme metal and who's like authentic and
Yeah.
and wants to be a part of the conversation with me, I'll keep going. You know.
Cool. Yeah. It's good because you love it. You learn something new every time, and you meet new people. Which and to me, that's the thing that I've probably got the most out of playing guitar is just the friendships I've got
Yes.
from all over the place, and people that I've been friends with now for 30 years because I met them playing music. And yeah, I just don't think you can't buy that sort of thing.
Oh, you
You can
can't.
only get it by no, you can only get it from being involved in something
Yep.
at whatever level it is.
Yeah, and I have a I have a podcast that I'm going to release on Tuesday. I don't know if you saw, but I got to interview Frederick of the founding bass player of Bathory. And
Really?
yes, his first ever
Bloody hell.
podcast,
Right.
and that's all because of playing guitar. Like it all goes
Yeah.
back to playing guitar, because if I wouldn't have got inspired playing guitar, there's no way that this podcast would have happened, or would I would
Yeah.
have started it. Just no
Mm.
way. And
Yeah.
Frederick was, I mean, man, he's just a super friendly, humble guy, and I got to see him play some Bathory tributes at Beyond the Gates, and again at Inferno Fest with Shudur, which oh my god, it was like the most brilliant performance I've ever seen. And
Nice.
I never got to I don't think anyone's ever seen Bathory live, but man, I tell you, that was probably as close as it got for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And what an influence they were on the scene.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if someone calls them a black metal fan and they're not digging Bathory, you're listening with the wrong ears, my friend. You just
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was one of the other early bands that we were listening to, like the Blood Fire Death album. And it was like, and yeah, so and Quella and from Aldo Freya that I'm in currently as well, which I haven't really spoken about to be fair, but yeah, he's a massive Bathory fan, and I think we did a cover of Necromancy a couple of years ago, and we put that on Spotify. But yeah, and I suppose that's the last band that I haven't mentioned or gone into really is Aldo Freya, because that happened, I think, just during COVID, sometime just post COVID or in that era.
Mhm.
I was working with a drummer, Sven, and he said to me, "I'm in another band, and we need a guitar player. Are you interested?" And at the time, I was still doing all my solo stuff, but I quite liked the idea of joining something different, because recording stuff all by yourself all the time does get a little bit. I enjoy it because you haven't got any band politics or anything, but every now and then you want to work with other musicians.
Yeah.
And working with Aldo Freya was a totally different way of working for me, and I think it totally expanded my playing, because I have a very sort of theory based way of thinking about music. So if I sit down with my guitar, or up until this point, if I sit down with my guitar, I'll play. I'll naturally stay within key normally when I'm playing.
Mm.
Um, Whereas Queller would send me, he would write a bass part, send it to me, and then I would write the guitar parts to go over the top. And where he wouldn't play in the same way that I would, it forced me to totally change how I was writing music.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved that because it totally took me out of my normal little box that I play in or would write in. And I think that's expanded the way I now would write my solo stuff as well. So that was a really good thing to get involved in.
Yeah.
And I'm still involved in it now. We're in the middle of doing a new album at the moment. We're just waiting for Bob Marr to do the drums, and then that's going to be coming out at some point.
Okay.
So yeah, and I say again.
Oh no, I was about to interrupt you, but continue, please.
That's all right. You can interrupt me. I think I'd finish my train of thought anyway.
I was thinking about the the song that you released with is it Bob?
Yeah, the drummer Bob Marr.
Right.
Bob Marr Simon, yeah.
And it was like a international crossover band.
Yeah.
I did that one metal song,
Mm.
and I want a full album of that. That was fucking awesome.
So that was the one that I did with Farvan
Yes.
and Zimmerog as well. So
Yes.
it was the four of us.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, we did talk about doing that, releasing an album, and we had a little WhatsApp group going, but then for whatever reason, it never happened. But it probably didn't happen because nobody bothered to actually push it forward. Whereas that's a good idea, though. Maybe we should reinvigorate that idea.
I felt like that was probably the best black metal release that never happened other than on YouTube.
Yeah, true, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, and those guys, they're all great guys as well.
It definitely seemed like it.
You know,
They seem like they have a really good sense of humor.
yeah, and that's what I love because people always think black metal bands and black metal musicians are just really serious and dark, but I've never met any of them that are. They're all just brilliant people that have got a great sense of humor. You know, a lot of dark humor, but that's my sort of humor anyway.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah, or gallows humor. But yeah, and yeah, they're all just a good laugh, and we have a good laugh, and so yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we should put something together.
Yeah, I mean, I was, and I love how everyone contributed vocals in their native language. It was,
Yeah,
I was like, holy shit! It just sound so punishing and helpless and depraved, like black metal should
yeah,
be.
that's it. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, maybe we should do that. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll drop them a message and say, "Come on, lads, let's get it going."
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
And you touched on theory, and was music theory, did that come natural to you? Because I know, like, sometimes, like, I'll just like what the fuck am I doing, like, what, like, you know, am I that too dense of a person to actually understand what's going on with theory?
Um, I'd say it probably came pretty naturally to me, but I think it's because I've got a mathematical mind. Like
Oh.
I've always enjoyed numbers. Like even at school, I loved maths, or you call it math in America, don't you? You don't say you don't have the S on the end. But I always loved maths, and to me, music is just maths. And if you get maths, because everything is about intervals or subdivisions, or it's all numbers. So
Right.
to me, looking at it, I could just see the numbers. So like 1 3 5, there's your chord, or you add a 7, or the subdivision, you've got one beat and then it's divided by 4, or you do triplets, it's divided by 3. To me, it was all just numbers. So I think because I like numbers, I got the theory side of it. And it's like one of those things, you don't get it until you do, and when you get it, you just get it.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, I can see it now. Whereas it's probably like doing algebra or something, or learning. I mean, I can't remember algebra. I did it a long time ago at school, but I got it. And then as soon as you get it, like,
Yeah.
right, now I understand. That means that, and that means that, and I think music theory is the same. It's like it's bloody confusing, but when you get it, it's not confusing, and it just clicks in your head.
Yeah.
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 So
That explains a
you've
lot.
studied quite. Have you studied quite a bit of theory as well? Have you?
Not as often as I should. I'll be completely honest.
Hmm.
Because just like the way my guitar trajectory has been gone, it's just, you know, strengthening the things that I'm really good at, and
Hmm.
like and playing with the metronome, playing, like
Yeah.
focusing on the rhythm techniques, and
Yeah.
I'm without an instructor, I'm at this point, but I know that, as I want to push myself with more with songwriting, I want to know what keys work together, what doesn't, and
Yeah.
things and so forth like that.
Hmm. But it's interesting because I know Telok from Mayhem. He deliberately doesn't learn theory because and because I remember watching a video that he put up once, and I can't remember what one it was, and he was saying I don't learn the theory because I don't want to be constrained within the theory.
I heard that too.
Which
Yeah.
yeah, which I get because I always was constrained with the theory. I'd play in a key and then I wouldn't really come out of it. But that's what the beauty of working in Alda Freya gave me was, well, you can't stay in the key because I've just put this riff in and it's not even in the same key. So it's like, right, okay, now I've got to think completely differently. So I think theory is useful to know, but can also restrict you. So I understand totally what he was saying in that video. But to me, it's like it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's with all things. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely a great skill set as a musician. That's for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
because I know there's probably some musical outlets that that I want to dive into. Other than just black metal or
Mm.
death metal. Like the use of chords and like
Yeah.
and how to solo over it. Not that I'm a great soloist or anything like that, but like I see these things that you're doing with your channel, and you're playing like what if there was a solo in XYZ Dark Throne song,
Yeah.
and I was like, dude, you know what? That's fucking brilliant. Like, because it all goes together with what you were doing in that particular video.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Because that's one thing that because as well as like extreme metal, I love jazz, I love blues, I love all sorts of music,
Right.
and there's some music that you can't just stay in a key because like if you're playing over chords that modulate and change into key, you have to play something different or it just won't work. So and I haven't done that much of that type of playing, but I've started getting into it a little bit more. And yeah, I've got a few things that I do. So I've got this like random chord generator that I found online, and you just press go, and it will give you 25 chords. So then I'm like, right, and they're all in totally different keys, and some are major sevens, some minor seven, flat five, diminished, and it's like, right, I've got to play in this area of the neck between fret 5 and fret 10, and I've got to play all of those chords, and then now I've got to play the arpeggios, and it's such a brain workout
Right.
because moving from like, okay, right, I'm playing a D major 7, now I'm playing an E flat minor 7 flat 5. Okay, your brain just goes what, but then it's like anything. It's like a tool. The more you do it, the more it's like, okay, now I know where I am.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I've been doing a bit more of that sort of stuff, and I also play in another band that does gigs for money. Because playing in a metal band at a local level, you don't make money, but I play in a band that makes money.
Yep. I have plenty of friends that do
And
the same thing.
sometimes we'll be at rehearsal and yeah. Say again, sorry.
I was just saying I got plenty of
What did you
musician
say?
friends that do the same thing. Playing some cover bands or
That's it.
playing
Yeah,
tribute bands or whatnot.
that's right. Yes, that sort of thing. Yeah, and so it might be a rehearsal, and you've learned the song, and you get to rehearsal, and the singer can't sing in that key because it's too low or it's too high. So you're like, okay, take it up uh, a tone. So then you have to quickly go right, change that, play the solo up a tone. So having that theory is a useful tool because when but it depends what you want to do with your guitar. If you want to play metal in your own style with your mates, you probably don't need it. If you want to, like you say, do cover band or function band or tribute band, it's useful because then you can instantly switch between keys and stuff. So it is useful.
Well, I'm gonna do my best to dig into it. The more I've got the guitar grimoire book of like this different
I don't
scales
I
and
don't know
whatnot.
that, but
What's that?
I don't know that, but
Oh, I'll send a picture to you, or I'll send you a link to it. And
yeah,
it's really uh, it's a good representation of like what you need to make things like fit together. As far as scale work and
yeah,
different notes and whatnot.
I
And
see. Yeah,
so yeah, every time I have an idea of like where I want to go with like a main riff, I'm like, okay, what I could do, you know, chord change wise or whatever it may be,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I can kind of get out that pentatonic scale box, you know,
Hmm.
that
That's the thing.
I've learned, you know, uh, like I'll abuse the fuck out of a harmonic minor
Yeah.
to no end.
Hmm. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, learning from books is brilliant. And back in my day, when there was no internet, that was how I probably learned most stuff. Books on theory, books on scales. But now YouTube exists. It's it's so much easier. I wish that was around when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, same. I wish he was around back in 94, 95. Whenever I had the Ibanez, because I was
Yeah,
like, I essentially had no one to instruct me, or or my parents didn't know anyone who played guitar. If they did, they were hours away, and
yeah,
it was just and paying for lessons back then. It's just that just wasn't going to happen. Um, so
no,
like but now it's a different story. It's and that it just it keeps us young, man. Just like
oh yeah, 100%.
whenever like life shit is happening, you just got the guitar to like just express that shit out.
Yeah,
I mean that's what I do anyway.
yeah, same here. And because I'm a night owl, so I'm always up late. And if everyone in the house has all gone to bed, that's my time to like get the guitar out, get the
Right.
headphones on, and just play. But I was lucky because my uncle, like the guy that I said came out and helped me to buy a guitar, he taught me. And so he, right from the word go, I started learning theory and how to read music. And and I still remember the book that I got for my first lesson. I used to go around his house for his little flat. He had a little flat, and I'd learn in the kitchen. And it was just like a songbook of pop songs. And the first song I learned was Norwegian Wood by the Beatles. And sat down and it had all of the actual notation, and then it had the chord shape. So I'd learn the chords, and then he'd say, right, this is a G, and it's the open note there, and then and right from the word go, he taught me by reading music. So my first lesson, I did, and like anything, I didn't know any different. I didn't know that most guitar players don't start with that. They'll learn some chords in a pentatonic shape. I didn't learn that way. He just taught me reading music right from the word go. So I was quite lucky, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
As a seasoned guitar player musician, Simon, like what is probably the single most important thing that you can offer to someone who's just beginning guitar?
It's a good question. I would say just spend time with it because when I got my first guitar, from the minute I got it, I didn't put it down, and to the point that I was going to fail all of my school exams, and my parents had to take it away from me because I would just get it from school and just pick that guitar up and just, even though I didn't know, am I supposed to use a pick or am I supposed to use my fingers? I didn't know what I was doing, but I got obsessed with it, and I'd say that I think that's why I made progress quite quickly, was that I didn't put it down.
Yeah.
And I could have made quicker progress had I been more structured with my practice. But I think just don't put the bloody thing down. That's the best thing to do, and then you'll learn what works, what doesn't work. But in terms of actual tips, I think one thing is learning the notes of the fretboard, because I know a lot of guitar players and they've played for years, and if I say, right, let's play it in E flat, or let's play it in B flat, they're like, where's that? It's like, it's like,
Yeah.
You don't get a pianist that doesn't know the notes on the piano, and you don't get a flautist that doesn't know what the notes are. It's like, well, but there's millions of guitar players that don't know the notes of the fretboard. It's like, well, to me, that's the number one thing: learn the notes, because that's everything you're going to do is those notes. What else would I say? Another thing I'd say is learn stuff that's outside of your normal genre that you listen to.
Yeah.
Because I think, because I was always a metal player. Like, if I went to a party, like, I was known as a guitar player, and somebody would give me an acoustic guitar and say, "Play a song," and I'd be like, "South of Heaven." But, and they're like, "No, can you play an Oasis song?" "No, I can't. No, don't know any." "Can you play? Can you play?" "I can play War Ensemble," or I can play. I don't know. I can play Transylvanian Hunger. And they're like, "We don't know that one."
That
Yeah,
sounds pretty good on acoustic guitar, though.
it sounds great on acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
To be fair, most black metal sounds great on acoustic.
It does.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd say learn stuff outside of your normal genre, because not to make people happy at a party, but because you'll learn so much. Because I remember the first time I joined a covers band. Up until that point, I still had my theory and I knew my chords and scales and stuff, but I'd never really learned songs. I just learned scales and practice stuff. And I could play a C major scale or a D minor scale as fast as you like, but if you asked me to play a song, I didn't know any songs, and it was really weird. Like, people would say, "Here's, sorry, play us a song." "I don't know any songs." Right, "But you've been playing the guitar like 15 years. I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I don't know shit." But what but what I did find was that joining a covers band, then they're saying, "Right, here's a list of 30 songs that you've got to go and play, or you've got 2 months to learn these 30 songs, and then we've got some gigs." My brain just, my knowledge just totally expanded. And again, because what I'd learn is, like, I'll know one place to play an E minor, but now I probably know 15 places to play an E minor.
Right.
Just and then that helps you with other stuff. So if I want to play a black metal riff and I want an E minor in it, I can just stay there instead of having to come all the way up here or come up here, or it just expands your knowledge and your ability. So that's what I would say, is break out of your standard genre. It's probably the best thing that I would say, if somebody wants to learn now to be an all-round guitarist. If you just want to be a metal guitar player and you have no interest in that, then yeah, different story. But those are my tips: learn your notes and learn some stuff which isn't what you would naturally listen to.
Damn good advice.
What would your tips be?
Oh, I mean, like, I could piggyback on what you said, but is just don't put it down for too long. That's for sure. Because I know that, like all skills, if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. And
Yeah,
I know that whenever I put the guitar down for a week, maybe 2 weeks, it takes a little bit. It takes some time and some definite practice to get the chops back to where I
yeah,
want it, and get back to that natural speed that I took for granted,
Mhm.
for so long. So
Yeah.
and and keep things. I think my take on that too is just do things that's gonna keep you really interested. Whether it's learning
100%.
songs, uh, and I know for a fact. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that because things I noticed that my guitar playing actually progresses the more I stick with it
Mm.
and start challenging myself. But I'm not gonna be that sweep artist.
Yeah.
That, like all these like these got kids on Instagram that's just like
Mm.
and but I love playing the things that inspire me, and a lot of that is just like early Celtic Frost, Dark Throne, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And even like Poison Idea, you know, technique, guitar playing, stuff like that.
Mm.
I think that's my biggest thing is just play what inspires you.
Yes.
And if you want, and if in the with regard to uh pushing your skill sets, damn it, like you said, learn a song, spend time with with a song that's got like some really challenging chord shapes or techniques that you don't normally play.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is learn the song in its entirety, because quite often, you'll listen to it. Oh, I want to learn that bit. You learn it, and you get that bit down. But then, okay, so how do you transition from that into the next part,
Right.
or the part before into that section? And and to me, that's the skill, is being able to. Because I remember watching like an Iron Maiden video when I was learning guitar, and they were like playing a riff, and then they would come up for the solo. I was like, how the fuck have they got from there to there?
Right. Right.
And but now it's like, well, they just move their hand. But to me, when I was learning, it was a mystery. It's like, well, how have they got from there to there and played it accurately? Well, it's just practicing. But to
I
me,
could tell you the first song that I've learned to play in its entirely, and it's because of you. It's
right?
I fucking whenever Dark Throne's Heartship of the Scots came out.
Ah, what a tune!
Oh, dude, and like
Yeah,
it just reminds me of like 80s rat
yeah,
and and like in the best of black metal and I wanted to play the intro that the main riff that and yeah, and
yeah,
it just
yeah,
chugs, and they got those like those eerie like Black Sabbath type like they just rings out at and
yeah.
they're like that's the song I learned to play from front to back because of your channel.
Mm,
So I appreciate that.
cool. Yeah, pleasure. Yeah, what a great tune. Yeah, they've probably been one of the biggest influences for me. I think Dark Throne.
Oh, same here.
And yeah, and I know it's controversial these days, but Burzum as well. Like when that early stuff came out, and just the creepiness of it and the atmosphere, it done something to me, that all that early stuff, and the Emperor, the first
Yeah.
sort of EP that they released, that was, to me, that was a masterpiece. And the number of times I've listened to that, and it's funny, whenever I go on a plane, I have like an old school black metal playlist that I put on when I'm on a plane.
I do too.
And then after about 10 minutes, my ears pop and I can't hear it anyway, so I just turn it off. But yeah, I don't know. Those early albums for me are still the ones that I listen to the most.
Yeah. And then I remember my first trip to Norway and like watching Mayhem on their home turf after COVID. I
Hmm.
mean, it was the first time they played uh and quite some time in Oslo, and then they were playing they played their music from like each era of Mayhem, and it was just fucking nuts. Like all the
Yeah,
old Death Crush stuff
yeah,
that I love, and the Mystery. It was just it was just loved it.
yeah. That's another album that's a masterpiece.
Oh yeah, man, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. But I think the first riff that gave me those chills was actually Slayer. It was South of Heaven, because I was always into like Iron Maiden, AC/DC, and then I remember, I can't remember how old I was. I'm old, and we went to a little town, I don't know, about 40 minutes away from here, and I had a Walkman, like the old tape Walkman,
Oh yeah.
and we went into a little music shop, and they had this Slayer album, South of Heaven, on tape. And I'd heard of Slayer from the magazines and stuff, but I never knew what they sounded like. So I just bought the South of Heaven album, stuck it in my Walkman, and just that dun 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 dun, dun and I was like, "Fucking hell, this is mental!" And I was like, "I've never had anything like this before." But that,
Yeah.
that was the first thing to me that was like really dark that I listened to, that gave me that feeling that you only get from that style of music.
That was actually the first Slayer song on our I learned how to play with my old teacher.
That was it.
That was okay.
Yeah.
So whenever he like showed me the just the intro tabs, I was like, how the fuck do I do this? And like he was
Mm,
like, all right, and then like when I realized what they're doing, and you can tell me, but you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. It's not gonna offend me, but like it's like the spider walk of the notes that there like
right.
um it's basically you're going note for note of a power chord, but you're walking it.
Mm,
And
that's right. Yeah.
it took me forever to get to do like what I mean with some time and practice. I mean now I could do it. And
Mm,
but I was like, man, like yeah. So there's just more to it than just straight, you know, uh minor chords and power chords. Like there's you got to get your fingers that certain dexterity to like do shit like that.
yeah.
And that was one of the first things he challenged me with, and I'm glad he did.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That was the first that I would say like it's heavy and dark stuff that I listened to. That as soon as I listened to it, I was like, oh my god, this is a bit of me.
Yeah. I just I love how there's like different period, like the early Slayer. I kind of stopped paying attention whenever Jeff Hanneman died, and honestly, but I mean everything with Hanneman, I mean it was just dude, like those guys were composing. They were fucking like just they
Yeah.
had this way of songwriting that it was like you said, it was eerie, but
Yeah.
it was just fucking beautiful at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's what always drew me to black metal, was over other forms of extreme music, was just the eeriness, the emotion of it.
Mhm.
Because I remember watching you know Pestilence,
I so
Patrick
love
Memeli.
Pestilence.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I remember watching a video of his on the. We used to have a program in the UK called Raw Power, and it was on at like 3 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night, and I'd stay up every week because it was the only metal show.
Mhm.
And there was an interview with Patrick Memeli where he was talking about their album Testimony of the Ancients, which was coming out, and he played Land of Tears, and there was a video of him playing Land of Tears, and he in the interview he said, metal is, or death metal is just aggression. He's like, but there's a lot of other emotions in the world than just aggression. And that's what he was trying to portray in this album. And to me, that's what black metal does, because it has the aggression, but also has like the sadness and the despair and the nihilism
Yeah.
and all of those different emotions that you feel, especially probably growing up, like when you're a teenager,
Oh
you've
yeah.
got all of that in you all the time. And I think that really touched that when I first heard that first Emperor stuff. It's like this. It really touched me. It's like Jesus. This is just full of emotion. This music.
Yeah. I damn near got I got real emotional watching Emperor live the first time when I went to Inferno Festival,
Yeah,
and I was like, bro, this is insane. Like
yeah,
just to witness that, and how many years they're removed from that first album that they released,
yeah.
and it's just spot on. Like God,
Because they were kids, weren't they? Really, when they wrote that, they were kids.
right, right. Like
And it's like,
all these guys, in that in the black metal scene back in, call it 90, from 1990 to
Yeah,
94. I mean, dude, they were no more than like anywhere from 17 to 21 years old. And they had
yeah,
no idea what kind of impact that they were going to put on this world and the music in,
that's right.
in large,
Mm,
by and large. It's fucking ridiculous. And the staying power that it has to this day. And
yeah,
I was thinking about this. It's like, dude, I mean, black metal is, for the most part, is so commercialized these days,
mm,
and it's turned into something that it's an institution now.
yeah,
It's not going anywhere, because as long as you have the emotions that you talked about, as long as kids are feeling, you know, like an outcast, they got aggression, they have anger, and
yeah.
a state of despair and hopelessness, some kid is going to turn all that into something fucking brilliant.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. And I think those feelings are enhanced when you're a teenager. Like
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't when I was growing up. I didn't know who I was, what I was. I was always a bit of a misfit because I don't know. I was always into the occult as a kid. Like I really had a fascination
Oh, I
with
did too.
witchcraft and black magic and anything that was slightly dark or whatever. I just had this fascination with it. So I was always a bit of an outcast. And then getting into black metal and then meeting some friends that were into it, and then just we would walk around town in corpse paint at like 1 o'clock in the morning and all sorts of shit. And we were 17, 18, but we thought it was brilliant. Just
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
around in robes and corpse paint and just scaring the shit out of people.
See,
But
I didn't have any friends that would partake with me in doing
right,
some shit like that.
mm,
But I did. Like you know, my I would just put the my eyes would just be like, like black, and I just walk around in my hometown and sneak up my parents' house,
yeah,
put on my CD Walkman, and just and just hopefully the cops don't fucking stop me and ask me what the
yeah,
fuck I'm doing past curfew.
absolutely. The good old days.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
parents are watching this. They're gonna be like, you're probably like, yeah, we thought we heard someone in the middle of the night leave the house.
yeah, yeah. But we didn't know you were dressing up as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? Great memories, though, I tell you. I've
Yeah.
got so many good memories of those early days.
What I
Just
Speaking of the early days, and maybe now, man, what I love to do is ask every guest that comes on, like, what's their six favorite albums that they just cannot live without.
six favorite albums. So
It could be anything,
yeah,
non-metal, metal, whatever.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say "No Prayer for the Dying" by Maiden because if it wasn't for that album, I wouldn't play the guitar, and I wouldn't have the friends that I have and the experiences and memories. So that's got to be number one. I'd say number two, Carcass, Necroticism, Descanting the Insalubris. I remember the first time I saw, again, I discovered this from that Raw Power TV show that I told
Yeah,
you about. And
yeah.
they had the video of incarnated solvent abuse with where they all got that like muslin on them and the tarpaulin or whatever it is, and to me that song, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking unbelievable. So again, I ordered that album from our local record shop because they didn't have it in there. Had to wait about 2 weeks. They'd phone you on the landline to tell you that the album's in because we didn't have mobile phones.
Right.
And this was before I was driving, so I had to get the bus down to town, take my empty Walkman with me, get the bus down to town, get the tape that I'd ordered, stick it in, and listen to it on the bus all the way while reading the lyrics. So that album blew me away. Um, so that's number two. Number three is probably Radiohead, OK Computer.
How did I forget to not bring that up? Because whenever you covered climbing up the walls,
Yeah,
I shit my drawers, like, not almost figuratively. I downloaded that shit. I sent it to
right.
all my friends who are into black metal and some who not
Mm,
who just know about Radiohead. And
yeah,
That's my favorite Radiohead as well.
Yeah.
Something about that record is just
Oh,
it's a fucking masterpiece.
it is a masterpiece. Every single song on that album is a masterpiece. And it was weird because like, I was talking about my old flatmate earlier. He was a massive Radiohead fan, and he tried to get me into it a few times, and I didn't really get it. I was like, I sort of, yeah, they're good, but they're a bit weird. And this one time, I'd gone to have a bath, and he'd already left the flat, but he'd left Radiohead on the CD player. It was OK Computer, and yeah, Climbing Up the Walls came on, and I was in the bath, and it was like it was like Tom York's soul had come into the bathroom, like, and that was the moment that I got Radiohead, and from that moment I was like, I'll never look back, because to me that's still one of the greatest albums of all time.
It really is. That stays on all my playlists and Spotify. I got
Yeah,
I just recently bought the reissued vinyl. I had it on CD, and God, I love it. And I mean,
yeah,
Climbing Up the Walls is my favorite track on it by far because of just
yeah,
you know, I bought that album when I was 16 years old
mm,
when it came out because I was a huge fan of the Bends.
yeah,
I what you know I liked whenever Pablo Honey came out, because they had Creep. Everyone was digging into Creep.
yeah,
Something about the Bends is what, like I really pay attention to. And then
yeah,
OK Computer came out. It was just like it was a wrap. Like as far
yeah,
as as far as I was concerned, I was like, they can't top that album.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's
I
just
don't think anyone can top that album
no, no.
ever.
No.
No. Um, and also like you say, the Bends as well. I mean, that album was just unbelievable. The and again, I think because they were so young, but you can hear their emotion in those albums.
Yep.
But even after that, with Kid A and Amnesiac, even though they were completely different,
Hmm.
again, I absolutely love those albums.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, out of all of it, I'd say OK Computer is definitely on the top six.
Real side note here. I never got to see Radiohead live, but I went to Austin, Texas, and saw Nick Cave and Colin Greenwood together doing
Yeah,
their duet basically of covering all of
was it good?
Nick Cave's songs from the years. That shit was fucking
Yeah,
brilliant. That was so good.
yeah. Oh, I bet it was.
Please
Yeah,
continue, sir.
yeah. I'm glad you're a fellow Radiohead fan.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yes, yeah. Next up is there's got to be probably The Emperor, the first EP with I and the Black Wizards on it. To me, that was a game changer, not only for black metal, but just for me personally. Like the with the harmony and the melody, but also combining that with the extremity.
Mhm.
Um, that was one. So where am I up to now? Four.
Yep. Yeah. Four.
So I've got two more left.
Two
Yeah.
more. And I'll give you a runner up, so I can give you three.
Okay.
You can't if you have
Oh,
this.
right, okay. All right, nice one. Thanks. Um,
Only
I'm
because
gonna,
only because we both love OK Computer together.
yes, that's it. Yeah. I'm gonna say I've got to pick a Dark Throne album, and I'm torn between Transylvanian Hunger and Panzerfaust.
Flip a coin on that myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say Panzerfaust, but only because it's a slightly better production. But I could have easily said Transylvanian Hunger. Both to me
You will find no
were
arguments here, sir.
no. Um, and then I'm probably going to say Rust in Peace,
Megadeth. There you go.
Megadeth. And I've never been a big Megadeth fan before or after that album.
Uh-huh.
But that album to me, and I don't know if it was Marty's guitar playing or the songwriting, but again, that album was just unbelievable when
Yeah,
I first heard it.
a lot of people revere that as a Megadeth's that's their swan song right there. Is
100%. Yeah. Um, And then probably my last one's going to be Mozart's Requiem,
There you go.
which isn't really an album because it's been recorded hundreds of times by different orchestras.
Yeah.
But as a piece of music, Mozart's Requiem is pretty
I
hard to beat.
I graduated not too long ago. I'd say about 7 years ago, and I had um a music class that I took, and it was just, our instructor was just putting on all bunch of very important pieces, and Mozart's Requiem. He played it in its entirety, and
Yeah.
I was like, man, like I need to dig into more classical music because of this class.
Oh my god, that album. And have you ever heard of a film called Amadeus? It's like a
Yes.
1980s.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen the whole thing, but I've seen the
Right.
clips, and I know they got the iconic meme where the snobs are looking at the balcony at the peasants.
Yeah. Yeah. But that film's brilliant because it tells you the story of it, and because Mozart wrote the Requiem on his deathbed, and they reckon that he was being poisoned by Salieri, the court composer.
Uh-huh.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's a nice story and it's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But the film's brilliant, and obviously Mozart didn't finish the Requiem, did he? Somebody else finished the ending of it, and you can sort of hear when Mozart dies and somebody else takes over.
Right.
But yeah, that whole album, or that whole Requiem, because obviously there's so many different versions. But that, if I was going to pick a classical album, I'd probably go with that.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Simon, this was one of the best chats that.
Oh mate, I've had a brilliant time. I've really enjoyed talking.
I really enjoyed this. We got to do it again. And
Yes.
man, thank you so much for coming on board. And you
Pleasure.
have anything coming up on your channel that you want to promote?
I don't think I've got anything on my channel. I suppose a couple of things I want to promote is we got a new Alda Freya album coming out.
There you go.
I don't have any dates for it yet because we're still waiting for Side to do the drums. But as soon as those are done, it will pretty much be ready. We've got the artwork done and stuff, so that will be out within the next few months. And then I've got a new Winters Mourning single coming out on the 1st of June. That'll be out on Spotify and stuff. But other than that, not a lot's coming out really.
Yeah.
Just the gas I was talking about earlier.
It's summer's upon us. Are you going to be heading out to any shows or festivals?
I've got nothing planned. To be honest, I'm not a big go to festivals and shows person because I don't know. I don't know why really. I think because I've done a lot of gigging and touring and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's understandable.
It's like when if a band's, and also because of where I live, everywhere is miles away because I'm right down the south coast of England. So any bands are always 3 hours away wherever I want to go and see anything. Mm-hmm. So that sort of puts me off a bit as well. It's like I want to go and see a band. I don't want to travel 6 hours to go and see them.
Don't blame
but
me.
Yeah, but I've got no plans. But if something comes along, then I'm going to see it. What about you? You going to see anything?
Well, I just got back from Inferno, not but 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and so at this point, it's just saving money until the next show, next big thing, I guess. So.
And how far away was that from you, the festival?
Inferno Festival?
Yeah.
It was.
You're going to make me look terrible now for not wanting to drive 3 hours.
It was I want to say a 14-hour flight, 15-hour flight.
Yeah. In England, we're terrible. Like I don't know if you do you know Bill Bryson, the author?
I don't think I do.
No, so he is a travel writer. So he's an American.
Okay.
And he lived in the UK for a while. And in one of his books, so he's written a book called Notes from a Small Island, which is about when he lived in England. And he's hilarious as well. He's got a great sense of humor. And then he's got a book about America, which I can't remember what it's called, but in this little, the one about England, he talks about how in Australia, they'll drive 3 hours to go and get a taco, and in England, we're like, oh, I'm not going there. It's 25 minutes away. We've got this we have got this weird attitude towards
Yeah.
going to places. Like, yeah, it's like, no, I'm not traveling all the way up there. It's going to take me an hour. And he's like, well, when I was in Australia, like someone said, should we go and get a pizza? It's a 2 hour drive because you're in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah, and I think again because England's such a small, compact little place, we just sort of stay in our little zones. And
Yeah.
but probably a laziness thing as
I,
well.
I've like I said, I got some friends in London, and they keep harping on me to go uh and travel out there. And more the more I think about it, you know, and having chat with you as well, man, like I need to get my ass to to the UK sooner than
Yeah,
later.
yeah, definitely.
I'll definitely be in touch with you. That's for sure.
Cool. All right, mate. Nice one. But I've really enjoyed the conversation.
I thoroughly enjoyed it myself, and like I said,
Mm,
we got to do it again. You know, whenever I got something new and interesting to present to you, or whatever
sounds
the case may be, or
sounds
I
good.
want to pick your brain about some whatever.
Okay, cool. Sounds good to me.
Thank you so much, man. You enjoy your evening, and
Yeah, you too.
I can't wait to see what you put out next.
Cool. Thanks. Nice one, Mo.
Right. You see, Simon.
Take care, buddy.
All right.
See you later.